Hey everyone, Naya Crittenden here. So today we're going to be talking about the ups and downs and the unpredictability of being an athlete, as well as how important it is to have a plan B. I'm so excited to be joined here today with Jeremy Ross. Jeremy is a former NFL wide receiver. He played college football for Cal Berkeley, and at the end of his career, he finished second on the all-time punt return list behind Deshaun Jackson. After his time at Cal in 2011, he was signed to the Patriots as an undrafted free agent, and he spent 7 years in the NFL on various teams. Now he's running his online personal training business, Seven Mind and Body Development. So, Jeremy, before we get started, I want to run it back to your time at Cal. And I want to talk about your experience and what did you study and how did that coincide with football?
So I studied social welfare, and honestly, so my time at Cal, even just with academics, just kind of my background with school, I didn't really have a lot of educational examples of people who like went to college. So there was never any idea in the forefront of my mind about what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be as far as an educational standpoint. So when I went to Cal, basically I went to Cal to play football. And when I went to Cal, I chose whatever major was the easiest major. Really it was just about me not having to do a thesis. I didn't want to write a 30 something paper. I was like,
Right, right.
whatever major doesn't require that, that's the one that I want. So I just kind of picked whatever major was, the path of least resistance with that, and then kind of trying to balance that with football. Just the schooling in the football was, a different challenge in its own. Just having to,
Right.
have a schedule. Coming out of high school, you're being told what to do. Going into college, now it's up to you. You get the power to be able to choose whether you want to do your homework today, tomorrow, next week. So that was quite of an adjustment for me going into Cal.
So, like you said, your focus was mainly just on football while you were there. So, did you ever like have a plan or, have a vision other than if you didn't get signed? Like, did you ever think like, what's going to happen if I don't get signed? What do I plan on doing?
You know what? I had no clue, honestly. I had no clue. Like I mentioned before, there was never something that I was thinking about. Like, hey, if the football thing doesn't work out, I aspire to be X, Y, and Z. I think pretty much all my eggs were in one basket. When it came to football, that was my focus. My plan A was to make it to the NFL. My plan B was to find another way to make plan A work. And so I think that was my focus, is trying to get there. And I think being in college, you were kind of in a bubble, so kind of my focus was on football for so long. So I think I just gave all my energy, all my attention to pursuing the NFL dream, and not energy thinking about, okay, can I do other things outside of that?
Did they ever talk to you guys while you were there, about the percentages of, how many college players like make it to the NFL? The average shelf life of a player in the NFL. Like, was any of that ever on your mind? Because you were so focused on college football and about making it. But did that fear ever come up, like about, possibly not getting and reaching that goal?
Yes, that fear did come up, especially because, I felt like when I was at Cal, um, you know, you always had that fear, am I doing enough to be able to make it? And I think I wasn't like the star player on the team. I wasn't the starter. I started some games, but I wasn't like the face of Cal, or even had that that image there. But for me, it created a lot of fear. Games where I didn't perform as well or I didn't get as much playing time, that would create a lot of anxiety, because I understood that, hey, in order to make it to the NFL, I'm going to have to perform at a certain level. So for me, it was like, okay, it definitely created some anxiety inside of me with the possibilities, but I still was like, this is something that I have to do. This is what I want to do. And there were fears of, okay, if it doesn't work out, what am I going to do? Those thoughts did cross my mind, but I still stayed focused. Like, okay, let me just do whatever I got to do every single game. Let me practice hard. Let me watch film. Let me do whatever it is I got to do to make it. So, you know, thank God it ended up working out.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Like, the focus, and especially if we talk about even the comparison between like, men's like college athletics with women's. For men, obviously, even with the percent being really, really small for the amount of players, I think it's like 1.6% of college players actually make it to the NFL. But you guys still have, a higher chance of making it to play professional sports than women do. So I think that's something that's interesting too, is between men and women's sports, like a lot more women, I feel like we really have to think about, our major or what we're going to do, if athletics doesn't work out, a little bit more than maybe men do, because you guys kind of have almost a higher chance, even with that small percentage, a higher chance of going pro. What do you think could be done to help college players maybe start to focus on, what they could do while they're in school, just in case, they don't make it to playing pro? What do you think could be done to help guys kind of focus on that and maybe have a second career in mind besides just athletics?
Yeah, I think it starts in high school as well. But I think on college level, I think it's just important for people to learn skills. Coming out of the NFL and seeing, having to own a home and renovate the home and do work, you realize that, man, if I could do all these jobs on my own, I could save a lot of money in a lot of different areas of your life. If your car breaks down, if you know how to do certain things, you would be able to save money. And you just realize how valuable certain trades are. And I think it'd be really cool or really important and essential if, in college we'd be able to be taught certain trades, or you'd be able to have the access to be able to learn certain trades. But I think education is always important as far as like giving people information, and they do that. But I think really putting a heavy emphasis on, here's some jobs that you could potentially go into, what are your interests? And I know that's kind of goes with your major, like, hey, this is your major, this is what you're considered doing. But I think really making us aware of what's actually out there. Because I think when I, even coming out of pro sports, it was like, what's out there for me, because you understand that there's jobs, the main jobs that you see, you look at all the establishments that when you drive around, and you understand that there's, okay, that's Target, that's this store, that's that. You understand, you see jobs visually, but there's so many jobs that you can do, or so many jobs that are out of the box, or so many things that you could do to even create your own business. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the confines of this square, this box, or what you see. You can do whatever you want to do. You can create a business out of anything. And I think being able to help them to understand that, like, what are you passionate about? And let's figure out a way to make that into a business for yourself. So I think not only educating us on here are the businesses that are out there, but also educating us on, okay, what are you passionate about? Let's see how we can create a business for you while you're in school and come up with a blueprint, a plan, a business plan that's already ready to go and ready to fire if this doesn't work out. Because if it doesn't work out, boom, you already have the foundation of a business plan to be able to go after whatever it is you want to go after. Or you can still pursue it when you go to professional sports. Now you have a brand. You have something you can do while you're in the NFL. So I think that'd be good things to be able to, kind of harness and focus on in college.
Right. And I think like exactly what you said, I think that is so important is, thinking of, which is, the point of this talk today, is the plan B, thinking of what you're going to do. And even if we talk about, for example, like injuries, so even if you're someone, like you said, for you, in college, you weren't always the starter. Like you worked really, really hard to try to earn that spot, and you knew that you were going to have to work really hard to make it in the NFL. But even for the guys who are the starters, who might even be the star players, like what happens if you get injured? And so I think that what you talked about, the importance of, focusing on trying to figure out what you can do after, after sports, what can be your side career or alongside your sport, what can you do to create revenue and make money, that may not come from athletics. And I think that that's super important. So let's talk a little bit about right after you got out of college and you were undrafted for a little bit. What did that bring out of you? Like, what was that drive like during that time? Or was it really difficult going undrafted and trying to figure out if you were still going to make it into the NFL?
Well, you know what? I felt like I was built for my journey. I felt like even starting from youth, I'd never been the star player. I've never been the guy that had favoritism from coaches, or that the coaches held in high esteem. I always had to work for everything that I got. I always had to come from behind and work and grind ever since Pop Warner. And I felt like that's kind of been my journey from Pop Warner through high school to college. And then going into the pros, I was already in that situation. Some guys are the guy, they're the man in Pop Warner, they're the man in high school, they're the man in college. Then they get to the NFL and they ain't the man no more. And they don't know how to respond to it. They don't know how to deal with, oh, wow, I was so used to being up here. Now I'm down here. How do I respond to that? How do I respond to not getting special treatment, to getting yelled at by coaches now? How do I respond to that? And I think I've already been dealing with that my whole life. So when I came into the NFL, it was nothing new for me. Being undrafted, it was a hard road, but I feel like, hey, I was built for that. And it was tough. As an undrafted free agent, you automatically start at the very bottom. And every year that undrafted free agent tag, it follows you throughout your whole career, right? So you can have a guy that was drafted 10 years ago in the first round, and they're still going to be like, this guy was drafted in the first round 10 years ago, but hasn't been productive at all. But the fact that he was a first round 30 years ago, he's still relevant. He looks good on paper, but a guy that's undrafted carries that tag with him the whole time. So I carry that tag with me, and every year, the class that got drafted, they automatically got put above me because they were drafted. They didn't play a snap in the NFL, but because they were drafted in a certain round or even drafted period, because I wasn't, they automatically got more opportunities than I did. So I think that made it hard because it felt like you take 2 steps forward and then the draft class comes in, you take a couple steps back. You take 3 steps forward, draft class comes in, you take a couple steps back.
Right.
So you feel like you always have to come from behind. You're always 10 steps behind, and you have to work that much harder. You have to train that much harder. You have to watch that much more film. You have to be almost perfect. And it's kind of weird because as an undrafted free agent, you get limited opportunities, and they require you to be excellent and to do well with those limited opportunities, right? And people that are drafted, they get 30, 40, 50 chances.
They get a ton of mistakes. They can make mistakes. They can,
They can make mistakes over and over. And it's like, well, shouldn't that guy you have more expectation for because you're paying him more? I'm the free agent. Shouldn't I be messing up more? Shouldn't I be the one that's not – shouldn't I be the one that can have multiple mistakes because I'm technically the guy who's not as valuable as him? Mm-hmm. So they have more expectation for the guy who was undrafted than they do for the first rounder or for the fifth rounder. So it kind of is backwards in a way. But so I had to perform under pressure at all times. And the pressure was having to perform with the idea that I could be going home tomorrow. Because in the NFL, it's a what can you do for me now league, right? And it's unlike college, you can spend your whole year, you could redshirt in the whole 5 years, you could be the weakest player on the team and still get to stay on the team the whole year as long as
all those 4 years.
Issue. It doesn't matter. You just ain't gonna start, but you still can be on the team. In the NFL, there is no just I'm on the team just because I signed up. No, if you don't perform, there's another guy on a plane right today. You boom, you know what I'm saying? Like right away, ready to take your spot. And that creates a lot of anxiety because now you always have that, what am I gonna do if football doesn't work out in the back of your head? But for me, I never like to think about it because I think the more that I thought about it, the more anxiety it created. So I just shut it out of my head and was like, no, I'm forward thinking. Next thing, next opportunity. Let me keep pushing. Let me work as hard as I can so that fear that I have won't come true, And as I've been on 8 different teams in the league, so I've gotten cut a lot, and some of it was because of mistakes that I've made and things like that. Teams wanting to move forward from me because of those mistakes. Some of it is just the business side of it, doing all that I can, but still, hey, it's just a numbers game at that point, and they release guys, So yeah, it was a tough road. It was definitely a tough road. You take days off. You got guys who like, yeah, I'm gonna take Wednesday, Thursday off this week, and I gotta take my reps, another guy's reps, and then the starter's reps on top of extra work. On top of that, while he's taking the day off, and then when he comes back, I still take my reps. So I'm taking everybody's reps now. I'm running with the 3s, I'm running with the 2s, and I'm running with the 1s.
Right.
So I'm having to be a workhorse every single year. But when it comes time to play time, it's like, oh, the starters get they get to there and have a good time. So, but yeah, it was tough, but it was great because it built something special inside of me, and everyone who's undrafted takes that road and and build something special inside of them.
Yeah. Going off of what you said too, young players who, are out of college or just coming out of college, or maybe have been out for a couple years and they're still trying to chase that dream, and they're undrafted. What would be your advice to them, like, on the mental side of things? Because the one thing that I wonder too is if it's tough, like how you talked about the players who are the starters, and they might have been the man or they might have been, that star player up until maybe college or the NFL. And I do feel like sometimes as athletes, we have a problem of having our sport kind of become our identity a little bit. Was there ever a time that you ever have to like separate that from your identity? How did that work?
Yeah, so I think I did associate myself with football a lot, and I think I did put a huge identity. Football was my identity, and I've been playing football since I was 9. So you can't get into to a space where you feel like this is who I am. You get a lot of respect, you get a lot of attention for playing sports. People who normally wouldn't accept you start to accept you because you play sports. People are willing to tolerate me as a guy with dreadlocks, you know what I'm saying, and going into a company or going and around these certain spaces because I play football. So,
right.
like, football in a way kind of gets me in the door of these places that would never really accept me unless I played sports. So
right.
Football was a gateway to get me in there. So it really made me feel like, okay, I need football in order to move up in life. I need football to be able to step in these certain circles or in these rooms that I normally wouldn't be able to get the opportunity to be able to step foot in. So I think years and years of that kind of made it my identity. Like, hey, I'm a football player. Even when we in conversations or somebody's talking to them, it's like, hey, Jeremy Ross, the football player. The football player, the football player. And that's all you hear. So it kind of gets ingrained in you is that, man, if I want to be accepted, then I have to have that football attached to my name. So it becomes who you are, And so you can fall into that trap and just thinking that, hey, I play football, when in reality is, like, even guys who make millions of dollars, like, they're just guys who can jump high, run fast, like, and catch balls and make tackles. Like, that's all. Like, that's all. And it's like that's your identity. Like, no, you're more than that. Like, you're more than speed and strength. Like, we can do more. Like, that's just what we do. Like,
right.
If you work at McDonald's, that's not your identity. You just work at McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same thing in professional sports. Like, that's just what we do. That's just our athletic ability and what we're capable of doing. That's not who we are as a person. I'm still so many other things, outside of football. So I think it is easy to fall into that trap into thinking that football or sports period is your identity. And I would just say to, some of the guys that are, coming into the NFL or chasing that dream, just as far as the mental aspect, I think you just got to put your head down and work. I think there's a lot of times we can go in and really fight for the acceptance of people. And that could be, and that's where the identity crisis comes in, is because we want acceptance from people, or we want to be viewed in a certain way. And we take that same mindset in when we go into these teams because we want the coaches to feel a certain way about us. We want the players to feel a certain way about us. So we go on this roller coaster of emotion because people's love is conditional. It's all based on circumstances. People's love and acceptance is all based on how you treat them. So if you're doing well, people are going to love you. They're going to love you. They're going to chant your name. They're going to put a statue of you up. Yep, they're going to wear your jersey. They're going to tweet nice things about you. If you're doing well and you're benefiting them in some way, they're going to love you.
You're the man.
You're the man, right? But the moment you get injured, the moment where you're not performing as well as you should, the moment that happens, then you're forgotten. You're a lost cause. And sadly, that's just the reality of sports. That's the reality of the fan base. That's the reality of coaches. That's the reality of human beings. We just are all about, what can you do for me right now? How can you make me feel right now in this moment? So what I would want them to know is, like, when you go in and have fun and play football because you love the sport, not because you're trying to get accepted from coaches or you want the coaches to pat you on the back for catching the ball, for making a tackle. Don't live for that. Don't live for those coaches saying, hey, good job, man, because you'll get tore up by that. Because the guy that's getting paid more, he's going to run a route, right? He's going to run a route at 10 yards, and the coach is going to be like, wow, what a phenomenal route. Look how he climbed out of that route. And then you're going to run a route, do the same exact thing that he did. Mm-hmm. And then the coach is going to be like, okay, next. And if you're living for that coach's acceptance, you're going to be like, well, I did the same thing that he did. or he can run a route wrong, and then you run the same route wrong. He didn't say nothing to that guy, but he chews you out about it. You like, I just followed what he did, the veteran who's been here for 12 years. I
Right.
did exactly. Why would you scream at me and not him? You know, and then you'll go up and down emotionally because you want this acceptance from the coaches so bad. You want to hear good job, or if someone else is getting more praise than you, then you feel jealous. You know, so
And you start to kind of put your identity, as we talked about, like on that. So like you only feel worthy if the coach is, commending you for what you've done.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's a trap.
Yep.
It's a trap, and it's how you get out of the league real soon. That's why they say 90% of the league is mental, 10% physical, because it's all mental. Everybody's big, fast, strong, but who can deal with adversity? Who can deal with favoritism when the favoritism's not, when they're not the one being favored? You know, who can put up with that? You know, who can grind hard? You know, that's what it comes. Who can hang in there mentally? You know, who can go long periods of time without getting any encouragement from a coach not looking their way, from them not getting any opportunities? Who can still work hard? Who can still push themselves? And I think that's what it's about. So I would say just focus on this and don't let this take you out, because that's what it take you out is your mind.
Right. And I want to segue quickly into what we were talking about, how you mentioned, like as a Black man, like being able to get certain opportunities with football. So kind of how we talked about like that separating like football from your identity, and having other interests, having other passions, things like that. But as you said, you're someone who you feel like with dreads, we know how it is. For the example, me wearing braids, you having dreads in your hair, we know that our hair usually isn't seen as professional in a lot of settings. And obviously that's changing now, but it's 2020, we're still dealing with it. And that's something too that's being discussed. Obviously the entire world right now is having conversations about race. And one of the biggest conversations we're having here in the US is how we're viewed, is how we are seen as valuable. And I feel like that's something, do you think that's something that is, very detrimental, maybe to the Black community, that we're only seen as valuable if we're athletes or entertainers?
Yeah, let me tell you something. So I was working before I started, me and my wife, we started our own business. I was doing finances, right? So I was licensed and insured to do life insurance, to deal with people's 401ks, 403bs, 457s, pensions, all that type of stuff, doing rollovers, all that. So I was in the finances, right? I was a financial professional. And the thing that made that job the most challenging is because of my skin tone, because of my hair, because of the tattoos that I have. If you Google financial professional, I'm not what comes up. I'm far from what you think a financial professional would be. And I think that made the job more challenging because you would have to do cold market, which means cold market is like people who are not in your circle, people who are not in your contact list. You will go out and try to have conversations with them to set a meeting so that you a financial presentation for them, just trying to educate them on and give them financial literacy and to teach them about savings and where to put their money, how to make their money grow, how to invest, things like that. But I would always feel, people wouldn't say it, but I can see it on their face of I don't trust you because you don't look like a professional. And here it comes back with the football identity. I had to throw out the NFL card a lot to make people feel relaxed, insecure, like, oh, you were in the NFL. Oh, okay.
Right. And then they can chop it up with you a little bit about football or something, right?
Money, a little bit about money because you've had some. Okay. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, that makes sense. And I felt, sadly, I had to throw that card out there because, and the moment I said I was in the NFL, the people are like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, well let's set up a time, you know what I'm saying? But before I even mention it, it's like, who is this Black dude with dreads talking about finance? What you know about? You're probably in debt, but maybe they thought that, maybe not. But I can read people's body language and how they respond to me and can tell that there was like a lack of trust there. But they felt a little bit more comfortable when I said I was in the NFL. So I think it always goes back to that. It's like always feeling like I have to put the NFL card out there to be accepted by the people,
Right.
But I did find that be a challenge in the financial industry is that, people, how people view me in that way. But that's what kind of led me to just be like, hey, I want to do my own thing. I want to start my own business. And me and my wife did that. So it is an issue. It is something that's real. And it's something we got to work through.
Right. When you were still in the NFL going between various teams and stuff like that, what was that experience like? At what point in going between all those different teams did you maybe start to think about another career? And how you were saying, how would you maybe be able to possibly use football or being in the NFL to kind of jumpstart that career?
Honestly, I was so afraid of life after football. I really ignored it. Like I ignored it. Even in the times where I got released from teams, like I wouldn't let myself think about it because of how it made me feel to think about life after football. Like
Right.
the thought of losing football felt like the thought of losing a family member, or losing somebody you're close to. Like the thought of that, I didn't want to entertain that at all. And I didn't let myself entertain it, which was not smart. I wouldn't recommend people like ignoring that. But I was so afraid to look back. I was so afraid to look out there. Like, what's out of this football bubble? Ooh,
Yeah.
it's scary there. I got to stay in this football bubble.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't let myself think of it because it just created a lot of fear and anxiety inside of me, and just not knowing what was next and not knowing what was out there for me because I've invested so much time in football. It was just like, okay, what am I going to do out there in that world? And what talents do I have? What skills do I have? I didn't go to school and got this major degree or master's to pursue this job. It's like,
Right.
what job is out there for me? So there was a lot of fear. So every time I got cut, I was just like, train mode, going to train,
Right.
staying in shape, waiting for the next call. I'm waiting for the next opportunity, waiting for the next opportunity. And fortunately enough, I was able to get multiple opportunities. And when I got those opportunities, I was able to capitalize on those opportunities and be able to have a lot of success in the NFL. Even though I got cut multiple times, a lot of teams saw something in me because every time I got to a team, I showed something special about myself. I showed value. I was a hard worker, and I was very durable. I had zero injuries. I've never had any injuries like that my whole career playing from Pop Warner all the way to NFL. The worst injury I had was I fractured my finger, which I was out for a game.
And
But
that's
I never.
amazing, by the way, to have stayed healthy for so long.
Yes, and I was. It wasn't like I was on the outskirts. I was in the trenches. I'm going against guys twice my size, 270 pounds, linebackers. I'm in the front lines, and I was still able to stay out healthy, which is great, and I'm happy about that. But I was always durable and I was always available, and that's what made me. And I was versatile, and I worked hard to make sure I knew every position on the field. Because I know if you can have one guy that can do 10 things, that's more valuable than one guy that can do one thing.
Hmm. Right. Right. And going off of that too, at what point between all of those teams, did you decide, okay, now is the time to look into the rest of my life? So like after, your very last, your basically like your last game, that last season, at what point did you say, okay, like now is the time to move forward and to move on?
So it wasn't until maybe like a year and a half after my last game, I kept trying to pursue it. I kept staying in shape, and I got a lot of workouts from teams. There's some teams that flew me out to work me out that said I was on their short list, which means that if there are any injuries that occurred, I'll be one of the guys that they consider bringing back or bringing in to be on the roster. So I kept pursuing it because I was like, man, I have so much football left in me. I'm nowhere near done. My body is healthy. I can go. So I kept working out. And then like a year went by, still no calls. And then the off season hit. So I just trained like I would any regular off season,
Hmm.
and still no calls. I had my agent making calls. He was saying, hey, these teams are interested, things like that. And then no calls. And then the Alliance of American Football League was created, and I was
Hmm.
like, okay, there's an opportunity there. And I didn't want to go to Canada, so I was like, this is as close as I can get to still playing football. Let me play
Right.
one with the Alliance of American Football League. Let me ball out, and then boom, show my film, and then get right back into the league. So that was
Right.
my goal. So I had to work out for one of the teams there, the Birmingham Iron, and that didn't work out. So I didn't get signed there, but I was still pressing, still pushing, trying to. And my wife, it took my wife being like, hey, you know, you got to set a date. You got to set a date of when this is going to be done. You got to set a date of like, okay, when you're going to decide to move forward. And that was the scariest thing for me is like
Hmm.
putting a time. and a date of like, okay, if I don't hear anything from any team by this time, then I'm moving on from football. That was the hardest thing I've had to do, and that was a
Yeah.
scary thing. I was mad at my wife for giving me that deadline. I was like, ah, I was hot, and so but I was like, man, it was just a scary thing because that meant I had to face my fears, which was
Yeah.
what am I after football, and so then after that, the deadline ended up hitting, and I was just like, wow, man, like football is over.
Yeah.
Like this is it. And so I had to figure out what else I was gonna do, and I was kind of looking around for some different things, and then the financial thing presented itself, and I was like, okay, this is something that I can do. This is something that I want to do, and I get an opportunity to be able to help people and make some good money. So I was like, okay, let's try it out. And then, but before I used to sell high-end cookware. Before that,
Yeah.
not high-end cookware. We were doing that at first, which was really cool to do because I was big in health and nutrition. So I was like, man, this is perfect, man. We could sell cookware. It's very good cookware that's healthy for you. We did that, and then I transitioned to the financial thing, and then that kind of took its course. Then we decided to create our own business because we want to work for us. We want
Right.
to be able to do our thing.
Yeah. So how did that come about? Like, at what point, like, how did you decide, you know what, I want to be, I want to do personal training. Because I also saw, that you got top marks all the time at Cal, for strength and conditioning, like weights. You were one of those guys who was always at the top of the class when it came to, the weight classes, all that stuff. So, you're someone who already has, that expertise, that work ethic, and just the development in general to be able to run a personal training business. So when did you decide, like, you know what, let me just use those strengths?
Yeah, so kudos to my wife. It was actually her idea to be able to start that business. She's been pushing so long to do something like that. So our original idea was we were going to run sports camps in the summer for kids, right?
Mm.
So we were building that, we were getting everything ready, still under the umbrella of our Seven Mind and Body Development. But we were going to do sports camps in the summer for kids and being able to teach kids fundamentals and be able to help them develop in that way, but also get the mental aspect of it as well. But when the COVID hit, we had to pivot because social gatherings weren't we couldn't do them anymore. So
Right.
we had to pivot and figure out a different way to be able to still be able to run what we're trying to do. So my wife was like, let's do some training, like let's do the virtual training and things like that. And so I was like, okay, let's get some input, let's get some advice on that and see how we can make that happen. And and then we ran with it. So we did like 2 months free. We did like 2 months, I think, 2.5 months of some free workouts on the Zoom.
Nice.
So we just word, hey, these are free workouts because we've seen a lot of people who are doing good things in the community, and we wanted to be able to
Right.
contribute to that as well. Like, man, we know everyone's in the house right now, and gyms are closed, no one can work
Right.
out. So we were like, man,
And
let's do
especially with
something.
how much the Bay just completely shut everything down, too, to just keep everyone safe. So,
Yeah, they shut it all down, and we were just like, man, this is something we can do to give back. A lot of people can still stay active during this time where gyms are closed, and because people still need to interact, they still need to work out. So we're like, man, let's do this. They'd be good to do free. So we did like free for 2 months, and then kind of towards the end, we're like, okay, man, this is. I think we're onto something here. This could be cool. And obviously we're like, okay, it's only so long we can do it free because we're not working at that particular time.
right.
So they were money going out than coming in. So it's like, okay, we had to make a financial move as well. Like, okay, we
Right.
need income coming in. So we did the 2 months free, and then we were like, okay, let's start working on this and create this into a business as one of the products that we offer among many. So we started brainstorming. We hired a marketing guy and got our website going and
Yeah.
got our business license and everything. And then we started rocking with it.
Nice. Yeah. So I guess I would ask you then, what did you have to do a lot of mental work, to get from where you were, either in the NFL at the end to now? Like, what kind of mindset, did you feel like you needed to have to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I think I've had a lot of relationships and friendships who've helped me throughout my career. because I was always building mentally. In college, in college is when I got introduced and got connected with a lot of the friends that I have today, and a lot of mentors and people who were just really helping influence my life through such hard times, giving me perspective, teaching me how to have perspective on situations, teaching me how to handle adversity, how I should be seeing it, how I should be viewing it. And I think that's where the mental development started, is when all those mentors came into my life and really took me under their wing, invested time in me, gave me a lot of love, gave me a lot of support. And they had sports backgrounds as well, so they were able to relate to me in a lot of different ways. I was able to vent to them about things I felt on sports, the angerness that I may have, if I was bitter, if I was frustrated, if I was down, discouraged. I was able to just bounce it off of them, and they were able to, respond in love and give me a lot of help. So I think, those friends are still friends that I have today, and I think that has allowed me to be able to build the mental aspect of who I am as a person and be able to handle the things going into college, going into the pros. And it constantly keeps building. So now that I'm out of it, it's the same mindset. It's the same help. It's the same development. And I just kind of use those same principles to approach every area of my life now.
Yeah. And I guess with that too, how important is it to continue to have a positive mindset, through the ups and downs that all athletes go through? Like, how important would that is that to you?
It's very important. I mean, the mind is such a powerful thing, and a lot of times a lot of things are just mental. A lot of things are just, it's what we say, the way we feel about ourselves is the tape that we play in our minds. I know one of the struggles of mine is I like to tell some of my people when we were working out, some of my clients, I tell them, like, turn your tape to side B, because side A, those of you who are old school and have a cassette tape, you have the side A.
Yeah, of course you flip it. Yep.
But you got side A can be full of all the negative thoughts we've been telling ourselves our whole lives, or all the negative thoughts that have been pressed upon us by people. Maybe it's coaches, maybe it's teachers, maybe it's people in your neighborhood, whatever the case may be. There's so many things that may have happened to us as kids all the way up until this point that have made us have a negative view of ourselves. Because I'm sure if you could ask somebody, what are all the things you're bad at? People would go down the list. This. All right, tell me some good things about yourself. And they're like, well, I guess I could do, it's hard. People have a hard time saying good things about themselves.
Right.
And it's a result of playing that negative tape in their mind for years and years and years, to the point to where now they believe it, right? But now I tell people, I'm like, take that tape out, turn it to side B, and press play. And that side B is all the positive thoughts that you need to be having. And just like exercise, like it takes exercise, mental exercise, to undo what's been done in your brain. Like, you have to work diligently to undo what's been done, the negative thoughts. It's not like you just change the way you think and it's like, oh, I'm gonna just think positive. It takes work. It takes work, because your mind is so trained to be conditioned to think negative. You have to fight daily. You have to have intent, be intentional with your thoughts, and be like, okay, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Repetition. I can do it. I can do it. I am good enough. I am good enough. I can handle this. I can handle it. Like, it's a constant reminder, a constant battle to undo what's been done. And a lot of people don't want to do it. They'd rather just feel guilty or feel victim to whatever it is that happened to them, because it's hard to get back up and keep fighting. It's hard to run a race where you've tripped and failed. Like, think about track and field, someone who's running a race and they trip and fall, right? And everybody keeps running around. To get back up and to have to rebuild your momentum and actually catch up.
That mental strength.
Hard. Oh my God. You have to push that much harder.
Because that's when you want to give up. Right.
That's when you want to give up. Like, most people can run the race when they're with everybody, but who can fall down and everybody takes off and get back? I mean, they have to chase harder just to reach them and then maintain, and that's the difficult part. And it just comes with the mindset. And I think mindset is huge. Positive thinking is huge, because whatever's in your mind is what's going to come out. Whatever's in your mind is what's in your heart. And whatever's in that heart is going to eventually come out. A lot of people try to change behavior and try to do good things, but they don't realize that the behavior is only a short solution to a long-term problem. It's the root, and the root comes from your heart. If you change what's inside, then eventually the outside will be changed too.
Right. I think that's a testament too to the name of your business, like seven mind and body. Like, do you guys talk a lot about the mind during your personal training classes? Do you talk about that a lot too? Do you like set aside some space for that?
Yeah, so I'm always motivating my clients during the exercises, giving
Yeah.
them perspective on how they're feeling in the moment, but how that's gonna be the same thing in their real life. Because a lot of people, the way they respond to pain and exercise is how you respond to pain in your life, and it's a direct. There's parallels there. It's a connection there, and I bridge the gap between those, and I make them make those connections while they're in the midst of the pain. But on our Friday sessions, what we do is I call it Get Better Friday. We have an intense workout on Friday where people compete against themselves. And then afterwards, we set aside time where we get to connect. And everybody as a community, we connect and we talk about what we've learned about ourselves through the week. And I say we because I'm doing the workouts with them throughout the session. So I'm dying with them. I'm exhausted with them. And I'm learning
Right.
things about myself every day. So we talk about what we're learning about ourselves in the exercise and how we connecting that to our personal lives. So we have people sharing vulnerably about, man, I quit a lot of these exercises and I can see how I want to quit in life. Man, we have modified versions for every exercise. People are like, yeah, when things get hard, I immediately want to go to the modified version. And I see how that happens in my life. When things get tough, I want to take a shortcut and still get to the same destination. And or we take it to relationships. It's just not about training. We take it relate training to business, training to relationships, training to parenthood, training to we connect it to every avenue in our lives because it's
Right.
who we are as people. So man, it's so great, and that's probably one of the. And they would say this as well. That's what they look forward to is the Friday sessions where we get to talk, and it's everybody. We're all on the screens, and everybody's
Yeah.
sharing vulnerably and being transparent about their lives as well. And I'm leading with that. I'm like, I'm not gonna have somebody do what I'm not doing. So I'm gonna lead. You're gonna hear about my marriage. You're gonna hear about how I'm dropping the ball in marriage, how I'm dropping the ball as a father, how I'm dropping the ball in business at times, how mentally I could be at times. You're gonna hear about the things that I'm doing well, how I overcame certain things, everything, and it's a powerful time because people share powerful things and they're vulnerable. So we like to set aside time every week for people to be able to do that.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like that also leads into like transparency, like just creating that space to be transparent, not only maybe with yourself, but maybe with people who are close to you that you feel like you can share with. Because I think too, kind of how you talked about, your fears and stuff with football, your fears about, what were you going to do when it was over, and even leading up to now, it was just being transparent. I feel like you said, once you were transparent with yourself, you were like, all right, you know what? I've been scared of this for too long. I've been trying to put it in the back of my head and act like it wasn't coming or act like it didn't exist. And then you put it at the forefront and said, okay, football's gone now. What's next? And I think for athletes, especially young athletes, it's kind of being transparent with yourself about those things. And I would even say for myself, like to go into the mental health thing, like I struggled with that a lot from college to playing pro. Like I did not think I was going to play professional volleyball. Like, if you would have asked me, oh my God, my freshman year of college, there's no way I thought that I would still be playing pro. Um, but you're right. It's the mental work that you have to do. Like, I still have a lot more to do. I have a lot to catch up on with the intentional thinking, with all that stuff, because, just thinking about those insecurities and stuff like that, like it does hold you back. And you're right. Like, that stuff can seep into the rest of your life. And I really didn't realize that, honestly, until I would say this year. Like, and you saying that too really solidified it in my head, even that, you know, my insecurities and shortcomings and stuff that I, always zero in on and focus on with volleyball. I don't even see the positive things that I do because I'm so focused on what I'm not doing well, or what I need to do better, or where I'm like where I want to be, that I'm not even looking at maybe the accomplishments and the things I've overcome and all that stuff. And so then when you're not kind of speaking to yourself in that positive way, you forget sometimes like why you are doing what you're doing or why you are where you are. And then, separating like the volleyball from the identity. What else am I going to do when volleyball's done? So I think all that stuff, leads into the rest of your life. So, what's the next step for the business? What do you see your guys' next step being?
We have a lot of things that we want to do. Man, there's so many things we want to do. We want to Um, I mean, so we're doing the training. We want to do apparel. We want to get clothing out there with our logos. We have two different logos. You see one behind me, and then we have one that goes on a black print. So we want to be able to do stuff like that. We want to be able to run camps. We still want to do those camps in the summer as a summer thing that we do for kids, be able to run camps in the summer. I would love to do like life coaching type of things, help athletes to be able to navigate those deep waters that they face with sports, period. It could be whatever. I feel like my weakness is my superpower, and I want to be able to share vulnerably my experiences and be able to help them to navigate. People have done that for me, so I want to do that for other people, and be able to help the kids, and not just kids. It could be high school, college, even professional athletes. I want to be able to sit down with them and talk to them about what's happening in real time and helping them to navigate all the things that they're going through. So that's something that we want to offer as well, sort of like a life coach, if you will. But we want to do that. Want to do like other training outside, like sports-specific training. I'm a wide receiver. I love wide receiver. Call it wide out play. I love my craft. I love teaching people my craft. And I feel like I've really got a lot of time to dissect it and really learn a lot of different things. And I want to be able to train people football-wise as well. So there's a lot of different products that we have on the shelf that we want to be able to offer, to people. So, we just want to build this thing, and there's always new ideas that we have that come up. But we want to do a lot. We just want to inspire a lot of people. We want to make a lot of impact, and we just want to do something great.
Amazing. So, any last thoughts to high school athletes or college athletes? High school athletes that have pros going to play college ball, and college athletes that have, aspirations to go pro.
Yeah. Work on your mental. Who you are at home is who you are in life. I think that's the most important thing that I want people to realize is that you only have one heart. You can't be undisciplined at home and lack integrity at home and expect to have it on the field or on the court or on the sand or wherever it is that you'll sport, on the ice. You can't expect, you got one heart. So if you want to, be the best that you can be, you have to be the best you can be at home. You have to be the best that you can be in school. You have to be the best that you can be in relationships. If you're cheating in relationships, you're going to cheat in sports. And if you take shortcuts, you're going to get cut short. And it's just who you are as a person. You can't turn it off and on. You can't turn discipline off and on. So really work on yourselves outside of sports and outside of school. Really work on who you are at home when no one's watching and being able to do that. So I think the mind thing, just developing that is very important. That's what I would say for people to focus on.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for talking to me today and, having this conversation and, obviously recognizing how, important this can be and how it can impact young players and other young athletes or even other guys too who might be going through retirement the same way that you are right now, and trying to refocus and trying to find their purpose again. So thank you.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Thanks for having me. Thanks for interviewing me, and it's a great time.
So thank you for anyone who is viewing this, and always remember to have a plan B.
Ball is caught, and Ross brings it back. Comes up the right side to the 35, the 40, the 45, the 50. He's gone. It may not matter. He's to the 20, the 15, the 10, the 5, and into the end zone. It's a touchdown for the Bears. And it's an end around again. This time the left side, and Ross has got it. He's down the sideline, the 20, the 15. Runs over his own teammate to the 5, the 4, the 3, the 2, the 1. Touchdown Bears! Oh, what a bonanza. He takes the snap, rolls to the right, throws. He's got an open man. It is caught inside the 10. Ross takes it up to his own 49. Comes right back up the right side. Gets a block, trying to swing to the left. He's got a lot of room. He's to the 35 at the left sideline, down to the 30, 25, 20. Stays in bounds, 10.
Absolutely. Here's a reverse this time with Ross, and he's going to walk into the end zone for another California touchdown.
Riley goes back to throw after a play fake. He keeps looking left, and he's going for it all. Way downfield. He's got a man out there. It is caught. to the left side to Ross. He's got it. He's down inside the 50, the 45.
He is very good. You know, a kid from Cal, he comes into this like half foot of snow or foot of snow, whatever it was, with a lot of tape, and he, you know, did exceptionally well. But he's a guy that we've seen when he's at Green Bay and saw him when he's coming out of college. He's strong, you know, and he's very explosive. He's got, you know, excellent speed. So he's a challenge. He's really done well for him and really helped the return game.
This is Ross. Ross turns the corner. He's across midfield. Finally pulled down by Will Hill after a return of 50 yards.
I tell you what, this is one of the really feel-good stories, in my opinion, in the NFL this season. Jeremy Ross, a critical fumble in the championship game, the playoff game with the 49ers a couple of years ago. This year, earlier on, he was with Cincinnati, or with Green Bay, had a fumble in the Cincinnati game. He hangs in there, he perseveres, he comes to Detroit, and he has been a key for this team in the return game since he's arrived.
He scored 2 touchdowns on returns, one on a kickoff return, one on a punt return.